Hello, hi. This is our second meeting, and we are down in our second lecture in our subject ethics and moral philosophy. Now, today we're going to discuss the difference and similarities of ethics and moral philosophy. Although we are using both terms, ethics and moral philosophy, interchangeably, because both of these disciplines are really looking into the moral goodness and moral evil of an act. However, in its application, we are going to see that there are minute differences, although these are differences that you may consider little differences or minute, but the impact is actually so great. So, say for example, there are things that you can do ethically, but they are not necessarily moral. Okay, so in a way, as if you're saying you can do things correctly, but doing things in a correct way does not always make it a moral thing to do. So we said that ethics and moral philosophy is a branch of philosophy. So we see that both of these are philosophies, right? And when we talk about philosophy, it comes to mind that this is a subject matter that does not leave anything behind because philosophy is it deals with everything. It deals with everything. And because it deals with a lot of things, then the coverage of philosophy is really very broad. Now, in order to be able to manage the study of things that are under philosophy, kasi lahat talaga philosophy. Mathematics is philosophy, okay? PE is philosophy, music is philosophy, lahat na yan, no? Medicine, these are philosophies, law, philosophy yan. So, in order to be able to properly address and manage the inquiries of philosophy, then philosophy has been divided into branches. So a kind of like bite size, okay? Bite sizes. So before we move on to the different branches of philosophy, let me just point out that philosophy's etymology comes from two Greek words, Philos, which is love. Now, for the Greeks, there are three types of love. Okay, love that is a directed towards an attraction to an opposite sex or to a person is eros. Okay, so eros is it refers to sexual attraction or sexual love. So because it is in a way directed towards having sexual relation, then in eros there is a desire to possess, okay, to own the object of love. Now then we have philia, which is actually the kind of love that one is using as regards wisdom or this philosophy itself. Then philia is a love that one has over your brothers or sisters or your parents, your friends, your people whom you know. Okay, so that that can be a type of love, a brotherly love. Okay, and then we have agape, which is an all-encompassing love, a love that you may have even if you do not have any relationship at all to this person or to an object. Okay, this love is not based on feelings. There is no need for you to feel some kind of a warm and fuzzy feeling towards the object of your love, because this agapeic love is a product of one's commitment or involvement to desire the best towards the object of love. towards other people whom you may not even know. That's agapeic love. Agapeic love is based on your decision. Okay, so there is in agapeic love, okay, an active determination of the will to love someone, to love somebody. That's the reason why it is not impossible for us to be able to love our enemies, because even if you feel bad about a person because he or she has been doing things against you, you may still choose to love by making decisions to do only the things that are good for this person or this object or this pet. Okay, that's agapeic love, and this kind of love is the kind of love that God wants us to have. This is a godly kind of love. Okay, so for the context of philosophy, Philos is what is being used here. Philos and Sophia, these are two Greek words. Philos meaning brotherly love and Sophia meaning wisdom. So you see, from the etymological meaning, okay, coming from the etymology of the word itself, then we can say that philosophy is love of wisdom, and a philosopher is a lover of wisdom. Now, when was the first time that this was used? Okay, kilala nyo si Pitagoras, I'm sure of that, because you have been studying mathematics and geometry. There is what we call the Pythagorean theorem, okay? And he was the originator of the idea. Now, Pythagoras was a wise man, and he was really trying to inquire upon the nature of reality. He really desires to know the truth. One time he was asked, kasi nung time ni Pitagoras, and even in the later period of philosophy, the time of Socrates and Plato, Aristotle, okay, there were people who are engaged, or they are experts in the art of argumentation. So they have a capacity to come up with very good arguments for debates, and they are being employed by usually influential people, particularly politicians, to help, so that they would be helped in coming up with an argument so that they would be able to pass some laws or things that would benefit them. So these are sophists. Itong mga sophists na to, they are going to be employed by these politicians and powerful men, and these powerful men, politicians, are going to ask the sophists, okay, come up with an argument. Teach me how to argue, okay, so that how to argue about the merits of, let's say, for example, raising taxes, okay, raising taxes to the people. Teach me arguments to convince my peers that there is really a need to raise taxes, even though maybe raising taxes may be wrong, but because sophists are really trained and very good in the art of argumentation, then they can come up with convincing arguments, and that is actually the job of many sophists. But I am not saying that all sophists are selling the truth, no. But this is the kind of reputation that sophists had. So when Pythagoras, going back to Pythagoras, when Pythagoras was asked kung sino siya, kung ano yung profession niya, tinanong siya, were you a sophist? Okay? Kabilang ka ba dito sa mga tao who are providing the art of argument, okay? Providing sound premises so that an argument can be put forward. But Pythagoras said, no, I am not a sophist. I am merely a philosophos. A philosophos. Meaning, pag sinabi natin philosophos, I am merely a seeker or a lover of wisdom. So from then on, persons like Pitagoras, those who are really looking at the meaning of, looking at the truth, trying to find out the truth, understanding the truth, and so on and so forth, without compromising it. Okay, without compromising it, they love the truth so much that they are willing to die for the truth, just like Socrates. Okay, he died upholding the truth like Socrates. So ito ay yung mga philosophers, okay, the lovers of wisdom. They love the truth so much they are willing to die for it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there were no philosophers before Pythagoras. It's just that they were not called philosophers, not yet. But their search for truth and love for truth is similar to the kind of love for truth and their thirst for understanding the truth, as shown by later philosophers. Okay, so so there is a difference between a sophist and a philosopher. So yeah, people who were called philosophers, yun yung mga after Pythagoras na. Then kahit yung mga tao who lived outside the Western Hemisphere, marami din tayong mga philosophers dyan like Confucius, and then Sun Tzu, and then we have Siddhartha Gautama Buddha. These are philosophers, but they were not called philosophers. Okay, they are called something else. A teacher, halimbawa, yon, they were called a teacher. But now we simply call all these people who are really reaching out for truth as philosophers. Okay, so ano ang scope ng philosophy? It tries to understand everything that is behind reality. Okay, everything that is behind reality, meaning to say that behind everything that we may be able to see and touch and feel, what is the underlying principle that govern the existence of everything? Okay, so the Greeks have a word for that, physis. The physis is what is the being that is apparent, but when we say they understand that from the physical manifestation of beings, there would still be something else. That's why in philosophy, okay, it really attempts to look at the underlying principles that govern everything, including, of course, existence and what happens when you are out of existence anymore. Are you really out of existence? Okay, and then philosophy will also deals with practicalities like actual things like evaluating whether an action, okay, or a decision is good or bad, the moral goodness or the moral evil of an action. Values like beauty. Philosophy also deals with that particular kind of stuff. How do we know that one thing is beautiful and what is ugly? Okay, so philosophy also deals with things like who God is and the nature of God. We have theodicy for that. Kanina yung sa beauty we have aesthetics for that. And then yung sa moral goodness and moral evil, then we have ethics and moral philosophy for that. So you will discover later on there are so many other things okay, that philosophy are really dealing with. All right. So now we're done. We are done with. We are just going to examine a few branches of philosophy. The first one would be metaphysics. It came from two Greek words, meta and physis. Meta means beyond or after, and physis is something that refers to anything physical or something that can be felt. So, in metaphysics, we look at the structure of reality. Okay, the structure of reality, and that under metaphysics, we can see that we are also we are able to identify in metaphysics the last thing or last term that we can attach to everything in reality, and that would be being. Now, being is another broad discipline that studies being as being. When we talk about being as being, lahat kasi ng bagay, even nothing, once we come up with the idea of nothing, then it becomes a being. Okay? So, Father Roque Ferriols tried to translate the word being into Tagalog, and he said that the best way with which we can translate or say it in Tagalog is meron. Okay? So, being in Tagalog is meron. So, when we think about nothing, no? When we think about nothing, sa Tagalog yan, merong wala. Okay? Merong wala. Kaya pag sinabi nating being, wala makakaligtas dito. Lahat ay being. Even a fantasy or a product of our imagination such as a unicorn o kaya ay kapre, tikbalang, manananggal, even if they are not real, just because we have an idea of things like those, then those ideas can also be called being. Okay? So in the study of being, we are, if we are going to go deeper into that, no, but we are not going to go deeper because that is not the subject. But let me just give you as an example, merong hierarchy of being. So meron tayong tinatawag na the perfection of being. So meron kasing being in intellectum. Okay? So ibig sabihin, this is only present in our intellect but not in reality. Okay? And then there is also being in intellectum et in re, or in other, pwede nating pagbaligtarin, being in re et in intellectum, meaning to say that this is present in our intellect and at the same time present in reality. Okay, so that is a higher degree of perfection of being. And then, and what's the other thing? We can also have being in re, but not in intellectum. Meaning to say that we do not have any idea about the existence of a thing, okay? Okay? But it exists. It's just that no intelligence or no human intelligence has it in the is recognizing the existence of such a thing. Such as, say, for example lang, merong diamond, okay? Merong diamond sa gitna ng ilog, okay? Pero wala pang nakakakita na merong diamanting kasing laki ng langka, okay? Napakalaking diamond niya, no? So, merong diamond na malaking diamond sa gitna ng ilog. Pero wala pang nakakakita. That diamond is being in re, okay? Present, okay? In reality, but not in anyone's mind. Okay? So, in the perfection of being, that goes only in the number 2. The number one spot is going to be occupied by being in re at in intellectum, both in the mind and in reality. Okay, so yun yung study of being. So, pag nakita natin kung ang metaphysics is the study of reality and reality is composed of being, then it only follows then that metaphysics and ontology are very much related and they cannot be talked about separately from each other. Then another branch of philosophy is correct thinking or logic. Now, you cannot do philosophy. You cannot do philosophy unless you have a correct way of thinking. And so, yes, although it is considered as a separate branch of philosophy, the correct way of thinking, but then it is employed in every branch of philosophy. And when I say every branch of philosophy, every branches of knowledge, history, science, everything. Okay? So, you have to have a correct way of thinking, a critical mind. Okay? A mind that is capable of doing critical analysis on things. Then, we move on to another branch of philosophy that deals with the validity of knowledge. Is knowledge at all possible? That's the question of epistemology. Pwede ba tayong makarating sa isang level of certainty that what we hold to be a fact, a data of our experience is actually real? Is it actually what we may say accurate? So you see, the reason why it is being asked is that philosophers and even today in scientists, okay, have accepted that the way with which we can sense the world will not always be the actual representation of what is out there. Okay, so put it simply, lahat ba ay kaya nating makita? Okay? So pag tinignan ko yung kamay ko, what do I see? Okay? What do you see? Okay? Yun din yung nakikita ko. But microscopically, okay, if I am going to put my hands under a microscope, then I would see a colony of bacteria and viruses and everything that are living in my skin. Okay? But I don't have, my eyes do not have the capability of seeing them. So you see, the things that we can sense and experience are only those things that are necessary for our survival. Okay, so it seems that our sense organs are evolved into simply facilitating those things that are necessary for our survival. Okay, so if that is the case, that there is such a thing as the world as it is, si Immanuel Kant has a term for that, the Ding an sich, the world as it is, then we have an a posteriori world, which is the world after experience, the world as it seems. They do not always, okay, they do not always match perfectly. Okay, so if things do not always match perfectly, yung the world as it is and the world as it is experienced by us, then can we really arrive at accurate knowledge? Okay, so yan yung question na gusto kong iwanan sa inyo, and that there's something I want you to look at the movies by Keanu Reeves, yung The Matrix. Okay, so marami ng installment yung movie na yan. I think meron ng 1, 2, and 3, and then meron ding pang-apat ngayon na ilalabas yung The Matrix. Now, the movie The Matrix is somehow a there is an epistemological theme in the movie The Matrix, because uh, in that movie, okay, the stars in the movie, the protagonists in the movie discovered that the world as they are experiencing is simply a simulated world, okay, that all men are sleeping and they are having collective dreams, and the dreams that they are having are being engineered by a supercomputer. So in other words, what is real for almost everyone who are sleeping is isn't actually real. The reality is that they are sleeping in somatic tubes, and they are simply being fed dreams by a supercomputer. Okay? So what if, sabi nito, no? In epistemology, we are simply being fooled by our senses. Okay? So, if that is the case, pwede ba nating masabi that we have a concrete understanding of the world as it is? Then, of course, there are value branches of philosophy that deals with values such as ethics. Ethics on moral philosophy deals with the values of human acts, whether an act is good or bad. And then how about beauty? Then we have the branch of philosophy that called aesthetics, that deals with what are the components and elements of beauty. Okay, and God. Okay, this is another branch of philosophy known as theodicy. And then a view on religion, a study about what is religion and its nature. We have philosophy of religion for that. So, okay, so ito lang yung ating overview, okay? And we are actually placing ethics in the bigger discipline of philosophy. So, you see, ethics is just one of the branches of philosophy. Pero we can only understand ethics, really get to be able to have a better understanding and appreciation about ethics if we can connect it with the other branches of philosophy. So, you see there, ethics is concerned with the question whether a human action is good or bad, right or wrong, moral or immoral. The term ethics came from the Greek word ethos, which means character. And ethos is commonly used interchangeably with morals or morality. Hence, it appears that being ethical is actually something that is akin to becoming a moral person. But if we are going to really look into the deeper meaning of morality and ethics, we shall see that there is a difference, and that difference can really affect our understanding of morality and ethics. So you'll see, being moral is usually associated with the value system one has. You may live in a society with a different value system with the other societies. There is a certain tribe, for example. This is true, but I cannot recall anymore which tribe it is. That as soon as a male child reaches the age of maybe 12 or 13 years, okay, they are encouraged, and their parents are the ones who are really doing making it possible. The parents are making it possible for a male child to have a sexual encounter. So it's some kind of a rite of passage for a boy to have a sexual relationship as soon as he reaches the age of 12 or 13. But then, of course, in a society such as ours, that is simply unacceptable. So we have a separate and a different value system than the value system of the tribe that I just mentioned. And then, of course, morals is also associated with a personal desire to be good. Okay, so this is something. No, this is something that you have to take into consideration always when you are going to use the word morality or being a moral person. Okay, so hang doon yung desire to be good. Whereas in ethics kasi, you can always perform things in an ethical way simply because you wanted to be able to do it in the right way. There are ethical guidelines, for example, in treating patients and especially patients who are in their end game, meaning to say those who are about to die. Okay, there are ethical ways, ethical rules and guidelines that you are supposed to follow. The ethical rules and guidelines are not necessarily always correct, but they are a correct behavior if you follow, okay, the correct way of doing things if you follow the rules and regulations, the rules and guidelines. But in spite of doing things in a correct way, it does not necessarily mean that this is a good behavior. Okay? So as you see, being ethical has something to do with simply following certain rules or guidelines. Kaya, for example, kung ikaw ay already a nurse and you have been told by a doctor that this patient who is suffering, sa halimbawa ako, okay, mamamatay na, halimbawa ako ay mamamatay na, and at that wala na talagang pwedeng magawa para sa akin, talagang mamamatay na, and I am always in extreme pain. So the doctor told you, okay, you can hasten the death of your teacher, okay, para hindi na siya maghirap, ay wag mo na siyang pakainin, okay? So stop feeding him, and that para hindi niya maramdaman yung sakit, you can give him an overdose of morphine. So if this is defined in the ethical guidelines for nurses and other medical professionals, then that is a correct way of doing things because you are following simply the rules and guidelines, all right? But it does not necessarily make the action as good, okay? So I think that has made the distinction between moral and ethical clear to all of you. So being ethical, being correct in doing things does not always translate to good behavior. A moral precept is an idea which is driven by a desire to do something good. So by precept we mean it is a series, or it is a code of action, code of human behavior. It defines what are the things that you can do that are morally good. Now, the moral precept here, these codes or that would regulate a human person's behavior, is coming from the desire to do something good, meaning to say that you are following a moral code because you wanted to be a moral person, okay? On the other hand, we have an ethical code, and it seems that they are almost the same. However, there is a difference there because although the ethical code is gives you a rules and guidelines that is allowable rules and guidelines for actions that are allowable for different occasions. Uh, it merely provides for the correct way of doing things, such as, for example, some actions may be ethically correct, but they are not morally good. An example of that would be abortion. Okay, an example would be abortion. For some areas in the world, Europe and the United States, some states in the U.S. allow abortions. Okay, so and that a nurse or a healthcare provider can assist in the abortion process. Now, the ethical code will ensure that the process or doing abortion is correctly done. But of course, you know that abortion is not correct. Okay? It is something that is not morally good. Therefore, you'll see here that there is a difference here. It seems that moral code is coming from the desire of a person or group of people to be morally upright or morally good, while in ethics or ethical codes are sometimes simply providing for the correct course of actions, but they may not necessarily be always moral. So hence the term ethical or moral, they both refer to act or behavior, although they may have difference in references. We can only assign moral values to those acts that spring from man's rationality, meaning to say that an act can be categorized or judged as morally good or morally bad if you have knowledge, you are free, and you are doing it voluntarily. Now, actions that are wherein rational character is absent cannot be called a human act. Okay, you will see here that there are actions that simply are happening to man, or maybe because you were startled, as an example, and you screamed, and people who are sleeping around were disturbed in their sleep. Then you cannot be held responsible for that because ginulat ka, no? So that action is neither moral nor immoral. So you see that whenever we engage in judging, making a determination of the morality or immorality of an act, then we have to be sure that the act that you are judging is coming from out of man's rational character or rational faculty. On the other hand, we have actions that are neither moral or immoral, and these are called amoral. Amoral because it is something that are coming from things that simply happen to man, such as, for example, you feel hungry. How can you be judged as immoral if you're hungry, simply hungry? But the action that comes after the that feeling of hunger can be judged as either moral or immoral. If you are hungry and you stole food from somebody, then that action, stealing food, is immoral. All right. There are plenty of things that are simply happening to man. There are physical things that happen to us, or physical feelings that happen to us. You know that you feel sleepy. Okay. Feeling sleepy is not bad. Okay, it is not bad. It is not good either. It's just is. Okay, it is a fact of life that people would feel sleepy at some time of day, especially at night. However, uh, the action that proceed from feeling sleepy can be either good or bad. Say, for example, uh, you feel sleepy at night, you've done everything already, and all the activities of the days uh, are already done. Then you sleep, you go to bed and you sleep. Then that is an act that can be considered as morally good. But if, for instance, I am teaching right now and you feel sleepy and you sleep while I am teaching, then you can say that choosing to sleep while the professor is teaching can be bad, if not morally bad. Now, uh, there are two technical terms that we can use for these two types of acts. All right, those that come from or springing from a rational character, meaning with voluntariness, freedom, and knowledge, are human acts. Okay, human acts. So you feel sleepy, and during the time that I am giving a lecture, and you chose to sleep during class, sleeping during class is a human act, and therefore it is it is going to be an object for judging as morally good or morally evil. You feel hungry, okay? That is not a human act. It is something that happens to you. Therefore, it is an act of man, okay? So those things that simply happen to you, these are acts of man. So it can refer to physical sensations such as feeling tired, feeling sleepy, feeling hungry, okay? And then it can also refer to passions or feelings that come from the heart, such as you saw someone whom you admire, so that feeling of admiration, okay? Uh, or anger when you see something is wrong. When something is wrong, the natural reaction should be anger, okay? There's something wrong with you if you don't feel anger when things are wrong, okay? So you have to ask yourself, why am I not feeling anger? Why don't I feel anger when obviously things that are happening around me is wrong? So it's most there is a danger that you are part of the wrong system if you are no longer feeling angry with the wrong things that are happening around you. So again, these acts of men, okay, ito yung mga amoral, okay, acts of men, although it cannot be assigned a moral or immoral value, these are, we may say, a starting point, okay, a motivator for you to do certain actions. And passions, more importantly, those feelings that come from your the heart, affects, okay, emotive feelings like crush, anger, admiration, jealousy. It can happen, okay. What else? Hurt when the feeling of hurt when someone insulted you or disregarded you, okay. So these are feelings that do not necessarily do not have or they don't always necessarily be either good or bad, okay. What you do afterwards that makes it bad or makes it good, these are we have these feelings, these things, because these are powerful motivators, okay. Powerful motivators. Think of these feelings as a vast reservoir of energy that when channeled properly, you can do great things. Think of your passions, think of your feelings as a water in a dam, okay? So you know that those water in dams, when they are channeled properly through irrigations and pipe systems that distribute water all over the town, can be used for many life supporting purposes. It can you can drink that water, so it can quench your thirst. You can use that water for cleaning yourself. You can use that water for watering plants, so that you can grow vegetables and trees. So think of all the good things that are coming from that water coming from a dam that has been channeled properly through irrigation and pipe systems. Now, when they are not controlled, okay, when that water is not controlled and the dam bursts open, then think about the destruction that it will make. Okay, so all those structures that will be affected by the rushing waters are going to be flattened. Okay, livestock and properties are going to be destroyed. So think about that. When your feelings are left uncontrolled, okay, you do not you do not channel your emotions. We don't channel our passions correctly. Instead of being a tool or an energy source for something good, it can result in destructive behaviors. Again, those feelings are acts of man. Okay? What you do regarding those feelings, those are human acts. As acts of man, they are amoral, meaning they cannot be considered as moral or immoral, neither. Okay? So what you do about those feelings will be the ones that will be considered or judged as either immoral or moral. Okay? Human acts, yun yung mga ginawa mo. Okay? If you are going to judge human actions as either morally good or morally evil, then we should have at least some kind of standard. Alright, so you just can't say to a person that you are morally evil, that what you are doing is morally evil, and this other person is doing morally good things without a certain standard, without a universal way of measuring or determining that actions as good or bad. So this standard is known as the norm or standard of morality. Moral philosophy or ethics deals with the norms or codes governing our conduct or act. It serves as a guide in determining what is good and right or bad and wrong. So, saying that something is good and another thing is bad is not arbitrary, meaning to say that it doesn't depend only on your preferences, okay, or simply because you like a person. So everything that this person does, you may justify as good. No, our this thing that we are studying, ethics and moral philosophy, is this one thing that will help us determine for everybody, okay, for everybody, the moral goodness or the moral evil of an act. As the study or science of the morality of human acts, it deals with the issue whether an action is good or bad and the reasons why a particular action is good or bad. So, moral philosophy and ethics do not simply say that this is good and that is bad. It also provides why. It also provides an explanation why a certain action is good and another action is bad. Therefore, it does not only say that abortion is evil, it will tell you why abortion is evil. Ethics as a philosophy is the attempt to achieve a systematic understanding of the nature of morality and what it requires of us, how we ought to live, and why. So yan, it is simply, ethics looks into the moral values that we have, and it attempts to make it clear to everyone why things are good or bad. It tells us how to live, the preferred way of living, and those things that we should avoid. There are acts that are ethically neutral, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. Those things that are known as acts of man. Ethically neutral acts do not have a moral value or sense. They do not have a moral value or sense, which I have already explained earlier. They are called amoral if they are amoral if they are indifferent to morality or the sense of right and wrong. Some aspects of reality are simply out of the realm of morality and are therefore regarded as non-moral. So there are things, okay, that we cannot assign morality at all. Even as an amoral, you cannot say that. Let's say, for example, this pen is amoral. No, this pen is simply just outside the realm of morality. Okay, so things like inanimate objects, they are non-moral. They are outside the realm of morality. Typhoons, floods, although they may result in hardships, we cannot say that these things are within the bounds of morality. They are simply okay, part of nature. So a non-moral object, for example, okay, on the other hand, can be used as a tool for a moral action or an immoral action. Okay? But still, even if they are used for something immoral, that would still be non-moral. The one who is using it for a moral action or an immoral action is the one who's going to be judged as committing to an immoral or a moral act. Okay, so for example, I use a knife to stab you. Okay, stab you. The knife would remain non-moral. Okay, but I would be branded as a criminal for committing an immoral or a morally evil act. Morals is also different from manners or etiquette. Ayan. Morals is concerned with whether something or an act or right or wrong in the moral sense. Okay? Something, whether something or an act or right or wrong in the moral sense. So yun ang concern ng morality. Now, when we talk about manners or etiquette, we are simply referring to the established correct way of behaving in certain social situations, and you can be correct in your manners and in your etiquette, but that may not necessarily mean that you can be called a moral person or a good person simply because you have good manners. Of course, good manners will be considered. It can be an added factor to the morality of a person because you are doing things correctly according to the social norms. But even people who are well mannered can have an evil intention inside. So manners alone or etiquettes alone, they do not define a person as morally good or morally evil. Manners or etiquette, on the other hand, is concerned whether something or an act or behavior is socially acceptable or follows a certain social or cultural practice. It is more based on the matter of taste or social preference. Katulad halimbawa sa dito sa Pilipinas sa atin, we don't call our elders in their first name. Okay? It is bad manners. Pero sa ibang lugar, in Europe, in the US, it's okay with them to call their parents in their first name. Okay? They do not consider it as bad manners. In Japan, in China, in Japan, not so much in China, I think. In Japan, in Korea, it is good manners to bow, okay? To bow their heads, okay? Whenever they greet somebody, okay? It's manners. You are going to be considered ill-mannered if you are not going to bow. That is having a good manner. But that does not, again, necessarily make you a moral person, okay? For example, eating using bare hands may be bad manners for some, but for others, it may be socially or culturally acceptable. Okay? Morality can be considered as having subjective or objective origin based on the origin of value. The technical term here is the origin of value. It is where the standard of morality came from, the origin of value. So, in the objective morality, okay, a morality with an objective origin, okay, the following are the origins of value, okay. There are three possibilities for the origins of value. Can be one of them or can be all of them, okay. So, yung pinagmulan ng moral code galing sa supernatural being, okay? So in the case of our monotheistic religion, Christianity, we believe that God gave the 10 commandments to us in order to define how we should be living our Christian lives. So our morality is really dependent on the commandments of God. So supernatural being. And number two, values are part of the fabric of nature, meaning to say that as we understand the laws of nature, we get to be able to understand also that we should conform our behavior, our actions and decisions according to the law of nature. Because if we do not do things according to how nature intends it, then destruction may happen. So, as you can see, we even those people who have no faith in God are capable of discovering the moral laws by way of understanding the very fabric of nature, how nature works. Okay, it is in the natural law theory of ethics or of morality. It is hidden in nature, or it is written in nature. Nature, our moral life should always coincide, should always be aligned, okay, with how nature intends us to be or intends things to be. And then values are part of the furniture of the world independently of human beings, meaning to say, when we talk about furniture, we don't really mean beds or things like tables or chairs. When we talk about furniture, it refers to elements or components of the world, such as there are trees and birds and fishes and fish and animals and vegetations and ocean. And then we have natural resources and fossil fuels. These are all furnitures of the world, and that they are well interconnected to our lives and to our lives and to other parts of nature. That disturbing the some kind of symbiotic relationship of all these furnitures in nature can result in the destruction of the environment, and then of course yeah, the welfare of man can also be questioned here, meaning to say that we are going to have problem. Okay, we're going to have problem. Say, for example, what am I saying? During the Industrial Revolution or before pre-industrial period, the earth is really very healthy. The air is clean. Okay, trees are growing in abundance. Wildlife is uh, very rich and plenty, and so you don't go hungry. You simply have to go out and hunt for food, and you'll have it. But when industrial revolution happens and when men discover that fossil fuels can be used as energy source for machineries, for factories, and fuel for vehicles like train and steam engine, ships, the carbon emissions multiplied, and we started polluting the air with carbon particles. And as a result, in the last 20 30 years or so, the use of fossil fuels, okay, these are furnitures of the world, the fossil fuels, they multiplied, and as a result, the our carbon emissions also become thicker and thicker in the atmosphere. Now we are having problem already with global warming because of the thickness of carbons that we have in our atmosphere. The heat of the sun that is received by our planet could no longer go out. It's supposed to be doing hello, goodbye. It's something like that. When there are no pollutants in the air, the heat of the sun will simply kiss our planet and then go out. Okay, but now that there is very thick carbon pollutants in the air in our atmosphere, the heat of the sun the heat of the sun that is allowed to penetrate our atmosphere remains in our planet, and this results in global warming. Okay, we call this phenomenon the greenhouse effect. Now, we have seen already the destruction that it has been causing in our environment. The ice caps in the Earth's poles are melting, and therefore ocean levels are rising. The sea temperature is also rising, and those coral reefs that are very essential the uh, in maintaining the health of marine life in our ocean, they are dying. Okay, so you see, coral reefs are very beautiful. They provide sanctuary to fish and a lot of other marine life. But now that they are dying, coral reefs are very colorful when they are healthy. But as soon as these coral reefs are exposed to higher temperature, they turn white. And that's already actually white for coral reefs is the color of death. Okay, color of death. It means that coral reefs are already dying. And soon, those white coral reefs can become murky and brown and dark as more pollutions would uh, be absorbed by the ocean. So it's really disheartening that these things are happening to us. These things are happening in our world. Okay, so in order to maintain a giving and taking balance in the furnitures of the world, we have to be really careful in dealing with all these things. We are not the only ones who are living in this world. So, our understanding of the symbiotic relationship of all things, lahat kasi ng bagay sa mundong ito at sa buong sanglibutan, they are all interconnected. So, our actions are affecting other other furnitures of the world, other components or elements of the world, and in effect, in return, their death and their collapse can also affect our us. It can also make us it will make our lives less desirable. Okay, less healthy. We can become less healthy. Okay, so all those things we have to take into consideration. So again, objective origin of morality, it can be that those origin of values came from supernatural being, or the origin of values has been taken from the law of nature, or the origin of value, we learned the origin of value of this morality from the interaction of the different furnitures of the world. Those are the basis for morality, objective morality. These possible explanations of the objective origin of values are expressed in the supernatural theory, the theory of natural law, and objectivism. So we already explained that. As subjective, the origin of value is related to human beings. Without human beings, subjectivists, theorists, argue that there would be no value. It simply means that a subjective origin of morality is coming from the personal preferences of men. That without men, how could there be any morality? Now, subjective morality, if we are going to subscribe to that theory, there is a danger there, because if we are going to base our origin of value on the personal preferences of the individual, then there is a really big possibility that chaos may ensue, because individuals would have different preferences. Okay, different preferences, and so values will clash, and that people will not be able to agree on a certain set of standards for morality in which they must live their lives. Now we have customary and traditional and reflective morality. Now, customary or traditional morality refers to the moral systems handed down through custom from generation to generation. We might call this static morality. These are those value systems that we inherited from people who lived before us. Okay, so customary and traditional morality is very strong, particularly in Asia, in China, for example. Their tradition, okay, the tradition of the Chinese people to honor their family is really very strong. That the family and the community is more important than the welfare of an individual. Okay, so for the sake of family, okay, a son or a daughter, for example, can be made to marry another person by way of arranged marriages. Okay, arranged marriage. That springs from the traditional or customary morality of the Chinese people. That the yeah the good of the family is far greater than the personal love of any members or the individual members of the family. So if you are a good son or a good daughter, then you must obey your elders, your parents, to to obey and marry someone whom you do not even know. Okay, so that is one example of a customary or traditional morality. Well, of course, we also have some even as Filipinos, we have customary traditional morality, yung pagmamano, although yung pagmamano, pagsagot ng po at opo, is considered manners rather than morality, pero we consider these manners are considered as precursors to a person's moral attitude. Okay, so you are being good mannered because you are a good child or good person. Okay, so it is called static because there is no change happening, even if this has already been passed on from several generations. Okay, static, pare-pareho lang, hindi ito nagbabago. Now, when we talk about reflective morality, it is when the traditional or customary morality has been subjected to thinking that the moral ideas that has been handed down to us has been evaluated, examined, and tested. So when these things are done, then and a few aspects of the traditional or customary morality, after examining and testing them, have been modified, adjusted to meet the needs of a changing time, the needs of the changing time, the challenges of the present, then that becomes a reflective morality. Okay. In other words, customary or traditional morality that has been subjected to reflection. Okay. So traditional morality can become reflective and dynamic when these moral ideas were simply handed down and accepted and were subjected to analysis and criticisms, meaning we are already subjecting those customary moralities to our analysis and criticism. Then they become dynamic instead of static. Now, applications of morality. We can apply morality into almost all areas of our lives. Namely, one of the first applications of morality is religion. Okay, almost all religions are subscribing to a moral behavior. That's why people are in a religious community. They follow a strict way of living. Okay, that kind of way of living is a determination or a thing that would show that a person in that religious community is really good, okay, or holy. So morality can be applied to religion. In nature, in our In our dealing with nature, we can determine how we should relate with all the elements in nature. As an individual, it will also morality can also be applied to how we relate with ourselves, okay? Because we can be immoral with ourselves. There is a possibility of uh, uh, having an immoral, okay, a relationship with yourself that is not morally healthy, okay? And then of course the other individuals, so uh, your relationship with other people, then in the society in general. So it will be applied to how a person relates to a greater number of people, a group of people in a given society. So some critical questions that I would like to leave to you. Okay, so here, is morality a repressive institution? Ito ba'y isang sistema na sumusupil sa ating kalayaan, no? Is morality a repressive institution? Now, some ideas, some thoughts here. The rightness or wrongness or the goodness or badness of an action is the focal point of morality. Meaning to say that we have morality because we are concerned with right and wrong, good or bad, and that this morality is setting a standard wherein we can be we can use as a guide for all situations in life that will guide us into choosing only the good and avoiding the bad. Many view morality as a repressive institution, a set of rules which society and religion, parents and the like impose on us to prevent us from living out our lives the way we wanted our lives to be lived. So naniniwala ba kayo doon that morality is something that has been imposed on us simply because people in authority want us to be kept in line? Okay, that there is that this is something that we can do better without. Think about that. However, the fact that morality imposes certain restrictions does not make it repressive. So hindi automatic that when morality restricts our movements and our decisions, our choices, it doesn't automatically make it repressive. Actually, it can sometimes be freeing, okay? It can sometimes free us, not just sometimes, but most of the times, okay? It allows us more freedom. While morality imposes on us some rules or standards through which we determine what is right and what is wrong, and which eventually shape our moral judgment and conduct, the moral wisdom by which we judge an action is not imposed on us by others but by ourselves insofar as we are committed to attaining a kind of life that is well lived. We all wanted to live a life well lived, okay? Eudaimonia, a life of flourishing. And we know that living a moral life is the only way that we can live our lives to the fullest. So, some questions for your discussions, for your own personal reflection. How important do you think is ethics in your would-be career? If you are studying to become a nurse, or studying to become an engineer, or a computer programmer, or a public servant, or a psychologist, how important is ethics? In our modern world, do you think we need to follow the traditional or the reflective type of morality, and why? And do you consider morality as oppressive? With that, I would like to end my lesson for this week, and I would like to thank you for listening, and I hope that these little musings about the uh, nature of morality has added some enrichment into your lives. Certainly, it has taught me. So I hope that this activity, this um, an hour and 20 minutes of lecture also enrich your lives. So thank you very much, and I bid you goodbye until next time.